She peeled his fingers off her leg, one by one. Then she walked away. If you have ever been that parent, sitting in the car afterwards with your hands still shaking, this video is going to change how you understand that moment. We are going to cover 3 things today. Why your child's scream at drop-off is actually proof you did something right. Why the children who never cry at all are the ones keeping researchers awake at night. And the single shift in your goodbye that changes everything. Stay with me on this one, because what you are about to hear runs against every guilty thought you have carried since this morning. In 1978, a psychologist named Mary Ainsworth designed an experiment that would reshape our understanding of love between a parent and a child. She called it the Strange Situation. She brought mothers and their babies into a room, let them play together, and then asked the mother to leave. What happened next defined 3 types of attachment that researchers still use today. The babies who cried when their mother left, who reached for her, who protested with everything they had, and then calmed down and sought comfort when she returned. Those babies were classified as securely attached, the healthy ones. 70% of all children tested fell into that group. Let that settle for a moment. The babies who screamed when their mother walked out of the room were the ones with the strongest, healthiest bond. That sound you heard this morning, that wail that followed you down the hallway and into the parking lot, it was not a sign of damage. It was not your child falling apart. It was your child's attachment system doing exactly what evolution spent millions of years building it to do. The cry is a proximity alarm. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, put it this way. In the world your child's brain was designed for, a caregiver walking away meant real, life-threatening danger. So the brain developed a signal, loud and impossible to ignore, that screams, "Come back, I need you to survive." That alarm is not a malfunction. It is the system working as designed. Your child screamed this morning because you are their safe place. When the safe place moves, the alarm fires. That is not a parenting failure. It is a parenting receipt, and it says you built something worth crying over. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. There was another group of children in Ainsworth's experiment. The ones who watched their mother leave the room and did absolutely nothing. No tears, no reaching. They just turned back to the toys and kept playing. If you saw that child at daycare drop-off, you would think they had it all figured out. You might even feel a pang of envy, wondering why your kid cannot handle the transition so easily. Researchers measured the heart rates of those quiet children, and what they found flipped the entire narrative. Those unbothered, easygoing children had heart rate spikes that were just as high, and in some cases even higher, than the children who were visibly sobbing. Their cortisol levels were elevated. Their little bodies were flooded with the exact same distress. They had just learned not to show it. These children, classified as insecure avoidant, had figured out somewhere along the way that crying does not bring comfort back. So they stopped signalling altogether. Not because they felt safe, because they stopped expecting anyone to come. A study out of Vienna tracked over 100 toddlers across 71 childcare centres and reached a conclusion that deserves to be printed on every daycare wall. Children who appear emotionally flat should not be assumed to be content. The calm is not peace, it is resignation dressed up as independence. So the next time you walk away from your screaming child and pass another parent whose toddler barely looked up, do not envy that silence. Your child's tears are proof they still believe you will come back. That belief is the entire foundation. Now I want you to picture something. It is a Monday morning. You have done everything right. The bag is packed, the comfort blanket is tucked inside. You rehearsed the goodbye the night before. You walk in, you crouch down. You say, "I love you and I will be back after snack time." And your child loses it. Full volume. Arms reaching. Snot and tears and that guttural cry that hits you somewhere behind the ribs. You hold it together long enough to hand them to the carer. You smile, you wave, and then you sit in your car staring at the steering wheel, replaying every second, convinced you just did something terrible. You did nothing wrong. Here is what the data actually shows about what happens after you leave. 9 out of 10 children are playing happily within 2 minutes of the parent walking out of sight. Not 20 minutes, not an hour. 2 minutes. The intense daily crying typically eases within 2 to 4 weeks in a consistent, nurturing environment, and separation anxiety itself peaks between 12 and 24 months, which means your child is not being dramatic. They are being developmentally right on schedule. But there is a wrinkle here, and it matters. Cortisol studies found that in the first 2 weeks of daycare, children's stress hormones were 75 to 100% higher than at home. That number is real. That is not nothing. And in lower quality care settings, those levels stayed elevated for longer than anyone would want. But in high-quality environments, with warm and responsive caregivers, something remarkable happened. Children who formed a secure bond with their daycare carer showed cortisol levels that actually decreased throughout the day. Their stress came down, not because it was imaginary, but because they found a second safe person to hold on to. The largest longitudinal study ever conducted on daycare and child development, the NICHD study, followed over 1,300 children from birth through age 18. The conclusion was definitive. Daycare itself does not damage secure attachment. What matters is the sensitivity of the parent and the quality of the care. When both of those are present, children do not just survive the transition. They gain measurable advantages in cognitive development, language skills, and school readiness that persist for years. The bond you built at home does not dissolve at the daycare door. It is because the bond is strong that your child can eventually let go and step into the wider world on their own terms. So let me come back to that third promise. The one shift in your goodbye that can change the whole experience. Stop lingering. I know that sounds harsh. I know every part of you wants to stay until the crying stops, to hold them one more time, to make absolutely sure they are okay before you go. But research from the American Academy of Pediatrics shows that prolonged goodbyes actually increase the duration and intensity of your child's distress. When you hover at the door, when you keep coming back for one more hug, what your child absorbs is not reassurance. What they absorb is that even you are not sure this place is safe. The fix is a ritual, short, warm, and identical every single time. A hug, a phrase that belongs only to the two of you. A wave through the window, something they can predict because predictability is exactly what an anxious nervous system needs to settle down. And if you want to go one step further, give them something to hold. A transitional object, a small stuffed animal, a scarf that carries your smell, anything that bridges the gap between your arms and the classroom. Research shows that young children treat these objects as though they contain the actual essence of the person they belong to. It is not just a toy. It is a piece of you they can carry in their pocket when the missing gets loud. If you remember only one thing from this video, make it this. The hardest part of daycare drop-off is not what happens to your child after you leave. It is what happens to you. They recover in minutes. You carry that cry all morning. The guilt you feel is not a signal that something went wrong. It is proof that you love your child so deeply that even a temporary goodbye costs you something real. You are not abandoning your child when you walk away from that door. You are showing them that the world is big enough to explore, and that you will always be steady enough to come back. Every time you return, right when you said you would, you are writing something into their nervous system that will outlast every tearful morning. You are teaching them that people who love them keep their promises. That scream at drop-off is not a breakdown. It is a love letter, written in the only language a toddler knows. If this changed the way you feel about tomorrow morning, send it to another parent who is sitting in their car right now, wondering if they are getting it all wrong. And if this is your first time here, we do this every week. We take the hardest moments of raising small humans and hold them up to the light until they finally start to make sense. You are doing better than you think.